Hi drummers, hope you're well. Just a little quick one for you here about practicing drums, like how to practice, what to practice, and my perspective on that kind of thing. Had a great inquiry, great question from one of my members, Tom, and he was saying he's got about 30 minutes a day to practice the drums, which is a really good amount, by the way. You can go a seriously long way, in my opinion, on 30 minutes a day. But often he finds he doesn't really stay on course with his practice. He often ends up just sort of jamming around a bit and the 30 minutes disappears. And he was saying, what would be a great plan? What would be a great way to sort of keep on track? Now, like I said, 30 minutes a day is a really good amount, I think, especially when you're getting started, man. If you can hit that, you can seriously make some great progress. For me, my perspective on it is, I think there are three areas to develop in your drumming: your head, your heart, and your hands. Or at least that's how I like to sum them up. So I like to do them in the order hands, head, heart, usually. So for me, the classic practice session, if you've got 30 minutes, would be hands first. By hands, we mean physical skills. Could be hands and feet as well. So things like drum rudiments, physical drills, maybe depends on what you've been doing, and if you're having lessons, like what you've been doing, like molar drill, finger control drill, drum rudiments, hand and foot exercises, but the physical skill stuff, right? Not actually playing music, but preparing for that. So all those amazing physical skills. And I think of this as just like the analogy I always like to think of is sport. Like a sports person, like a professional footballer, for example, they don't just go onto the pitch and just start playing football. They train, right? They build up the physical side so that then when they go onto the pitch to do their sport, they can trust their body to perform. So that's a really important part. Now, if we're talking about a 30-minute daily practice session, my recommendation would be about 5 minutes. The first 5 minutes, I'd like to do, quote unquote, hands stuff. So physical drills, rudiments, those kind of things. The next bit I would do is head. Now for head, I'm talking about like things that involve theory, like truly learning things. So if you're doing your grades, this is where you look at your grade material, right? The exercises and the pieces for your grades. Or it could also be things like learning other songs. It could be other sort of exercises that are maybe written out, but things that are actually involve learning material, right? Typically involving reading, like certainly in the lessons that I teach, more often than not, that would involve reading, grade stuff, but something of that sort. And I'm going to say in your 30-minute practice session, I would say that's 15 minutes. Okay, so we've had 5 minutes hands, physical skills, 15 minutes head, as in learning your pieces, for example, theory-based things. That leaves us with 10 minutes, which would be heart, right? As in jamming. This is absolutely massive, and I'm always quite surprised when drummers leave this out. When I did drum lessons when I was a kid, I did this, and although all the teachers that I had were amazing, I'm not knocking them for a second, this wasn't really mentioned hugely. I don't remember it being mentioned. I think it was just kind of assumed that you would do this. You would just jam around as well. But I absolutely think budget time for this and allocate time for this and take your jamming seriously. So I would say the last 10 minutes of your half-hour session would be a jam, right? And that might take the form of just jamming around the kit freely with some of the ideas you've been playing with previously in that session. It might take the form of putting on some music and jamming along with that. What I've done recently, you might remember if you watch this channel regularly from a couple of videos ago, I did the 8 most important drum beats or feels of music. So I arranged some playlists to jam along to for each of those types of beat or feel. So it could take that form, but some kind of jamming, and in particular, like playing around with the ideas that you've done already in that session or you've been working on recently and just doing your own thing with it. So just making sure that's assimilated, that's really been taken on, and just having some fun jamming with it. I really like to do that at the end, mainly for that reason, right? Because then you can work with some of the stuff that you've been doing. And also because that is, for most drummers, they find that maybe the most fun or most enjoyable part. If you've left it to the end, that's quite good, because then you're not going to be sort of so swept along with that you don't end up doing the other stuff as well. So for me, hands, then head, then heart. If it's a half an hour practice session, 5 minutes hands, rudiments, physical drills, 15 minutes head, so grade pieces, theory-based, truly learning things, and 10 minutes jamming, right? Putting on some music that you love, jamming along, or just jamming freely on the kit, using some of the stuff that you've been building up. That'd be my take on it. If you have longer, great. I think, like I said earlier, if you go half an hour a day, you can make some serious progress with that. I would say if you're talking about a grade thing, when you get beyond about the halfway point, I would say ideally you need to extend that a little bit, and getting up to probably an hour for doing for getting towards the end of the grade thing. I think that would be kind of a good guide. But yeah, half an hour when you start, man, you can go a really long way on that. Kind of depends, honestly. If people are super focused and they stick to the plan, I've seen some people do some phenomenal flipping things in these sessions. So that would be the broad plan. Now, the actual specifics of what you do kind of depends on what you're working on. The lessons that I teach face-to-face and on Zoom now as well, one of the things I make a massive point of doing is after the session, I will email the student the plan, like exactly the plan in order, basically do these things in this order, in that form, right? Hands, head, heart. So it's pretty exact. Well, they know exactly what they're going to do. And one of the things that's really close to my heart in running these lessons is that the student, because I just feel so much this is what I would want from it. The student leaves the lesson knowing exactly what they're going to practice, exactly what their practice session will look like, and there's no like doubt about what they were going to do. And then, perhaps when I was a bit younger, like when I first started sort of teaching and working with people like that, sometimes I think maybe I didn't make it always super clear, or at least the student didn't feel it was super clear. Like, although hopefully they enjoyed the session and they were enthused about it, they weren't always super clear about like what they were going to do on literally a sort of minute by minute basis in the session. So that's what I do anyway. I literally email after the session a full breakdown of what the person's going to do in the order that they're going to do it. So I hope that's useful. That's what I'd recommend. It's a really good question by Tom. And I think the sort of dirty little secret about this is that a lot of drummers don't really have much of a plan at all. And, for me, the difference between having a good practice plan and sticking to it and not is everything, is night and day, right? Is the difference ultimately between being really good at playing the drums and not. Certainly that's what I sort of see on a daily basis anyway. I'm not saying I've always stuck to my plan brilliantly or anything like that, but that's something that we should, in my opinion, we should be striving for. That's what I strive for as well, and that balance. If you're doing a longer session, if you're doing an hour, I would say maybe 10 minutes hands, so to speak. Let's see, maybe then 30 minutes head, so to speak, and then 20 minutes heart, so to speak, at the end. So I hope that's useful. That's the balance, I think. With the hands stuff in particular, please remember you can do this anywhere as well. So lots of the stuff, certainly the sort of physical drill exercises that I would be setting my students, like the molar drill, finger control drill, rudiment stuff, physical stuff, you could be doing them all over the place. Like most of the good work that I do on those, or the practice that I do, is away from the kit. Great to do the first little 5 minutes or whatever on the kit, but loads of that you can be doing away from the kit and building those physical skills as well. So again, I hope that's useful. Thanks for a great question, Tom. Thanks so much for watching as always, and I'll see you soon. Thanks a million, man.